Yo, everybody, what's up? Welcome to the Good and Terrible Show. My name is Travis,
My name is Mickey.
and we are here with another episode here. We had to do an episode this week to talk about everything that's going on in the country. It has been a crazy half year. We're not even halfway through 2020, but it's been an even more crazy last couple of weeks here. So we're going to be doing a lot of talking about race relations here. We're going to be talking about the situation in Minneapolis and obviously the protests slash riots that are going on across the country. I don't even really want to call them riots just because I think it's more rebellion than riots, but we can get into that as well.
Mm.
But before we get into all of that, we're just going to kick things off really quickly for a moment of silence for George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, and anybody else who's been a victim of the senseless violence from police brutality, and anybody who's suffering from it, aka friends and family and different things like that. So we're just going to kick it off with a quick moment of silence here, real quick, here at the Good and Terrible Show. All right. Well, now that we have given them the just due and respect that they deserve, we're going to get into things here, dive into things. Um, I know across the country, everybody is feeling a certain type of feeling right now, and we could talk about the root causes, even though there's not a whole lot to be said that we know hasn't been said on some platform yet. But we're going to make sure that we give our take here on the Good and Terrible Show. So I'm gonna kick it over to my co-host here, Mickey, and let you say what you feel you need to say regards to the George Floyd situation and what's going on in Minneapolis right now.
Yeah, I think that it's just so many different feelings. Um, I would start off with the George Floyd video. I saw the video by mistake. I did not know that he was killed in the video. Um, you know how on Instagram it gives you a graphic warning before you click on anything. I saw that, right? Didn't click. It didn't register in my mind that this man died in this video. So I clicked on it. I think the video I saw was maybe like 3 minutes long. And I usually scrub, to the middle because I want to see what happened. And
Hmm.
I went from like 10 seconds in, I'm seeing, I don't know his name. His name, I mean, it matters, but I'm not going to say his name. The cop that had his knee on his neck.
Hmm.
I see him with his knee on his neck, and I see George screaming that he can't breathe, screaming for his mother. I scrub further into the video, and you just see him like he's dead, like he's not breathing. His eyes are closed, and I believe his mouth was open. And I was just like, I just covered my mouth, like, oh my God, like, is he dead? And then I went to the comments, and people were like, outraged. People were like, this is crazy. Like, all these cops stood around and watched him do this and didn't do anything, didn't say anything. Um, so this is not the first time that we've seen someone die on camera.
At all.
Unfortunately, it's not going to be the last. I hate to say that, but I don't believe that this is just going to stop overnight. With that being said, I felt bad because it's like, how many more times does this have to happen for people to realize that something is wrong? And I think for me, it's more upsetting that um, people are more up in arms about the so-called looting, which we don't necessarily know who's doing the looting because they're making it seem like it's Black people doing it. But I've heard and seen posts where they're
It's
showing,
everybody.
right, it's everybody. They're showing white people destroying buildings, breaking windows, stealing stuff, and they're trying to make it seem like, oh, it's the Black Lives Matter. It's like, no, it's not just. And if there are also Black people doing it, fine, but don't make it seem like we're the only ones
We're the
taking
only
stuff.
ones.
Exactly.
Right.
So, that like I said, that video was really, really, really hard to watch. I kind of stayed off Instagram this week. I kind of checked in and out just to see what was going on. But I think that because we have phones now, we can see and record the murders, the injustices, the
Of
brutality.
course. And I
But
mean, that's what people are doing. right?
Right.
I mean, like everybody always quotes, the infamous Will Smith quote when it's racism um, isn't new, it's just being filmed, right? So I think
Exactly.
the bottom line
Yes.
is people are just tired. People of color, minorities in this country, black people, people are just tired across the country, right? And this is kind of the result of that. What you're seeing, and not, I don't want to go as far to say that I completely agree with, rioting and looting and all that stuff, but like I said earlier, most of it I don't really consider to be rioting, because rioting is just more so just unplanned mess for no reason. This is a planned response, right? This
Mm-hmm.
is a rebellion um, to people who have exhausted every other type of resource available. For decades, for years, for centuries, we've been working through the system, doing peaceful protests. But at the same time, you need to let people know, like, hey, we're not the ones to be messed with either, right?
Yes.
And I think that's kind of when we're at our best, when we're simultaneously um, doing both those approaches at the same time. I had the opportunity a few days ago to speak on one of my good friend, his podcast. Can I Be Honest for a Minute? Make sure y'all check that out as well. Where we were talking about that. That's the reason why I think the civil rights movement had such a large impact on American history, was because you had both of those approaches at the same time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, uh, both people ended up with the same result, in being shot, with Martin Luther King and with Malcolm X. But you still had, the peaceful side with Martin, with Rosa, with the NAACP, with all those folks, and you had, the by any means necessary side with Malcolm, with Angela Davis, with the Black Power movement, all those folks, and you need both of those at the same time. We're willing
Yeah.
to resort to any effort that we can, but at the same time, um, you know, sometimes people need to be checked.
Yeah.
So I definitely understand where they're coming from. Um, and I've been doing open letters. By the way, I want to address the point you mentioned that you had to stayed off of Instagram, this week a lot, and for a message to people out there, sometimes it's okay if you do need to mentally disconnect, right? I don't want
Mm-hmm.
people to feel like everybody needs to be on social media and outside in the streets all day long, whatever. If your way of processing what's been happening is to mentally detach yourself for a little bit, that's fine. You know what I mean? You still have to take care of your own peace, your own mind, your own house first. Me, I've kind of taken the opposite approach to social media. I've been, I think, even online even more, because I think at the end of the day we have a platform. I've been blessed to have a particular platform on social media. I have a pretty decent following on social media, and so I want to make sure my message is being heard. So I've actually been doing open letters um, for the past few days to a bunch of different groups of people, and we'll get into that in a second.
Mm-hmm.
But my only critique right now for the looters, and the quote unquote rioters, or the protesters, I certainly understand what you guys are doing, and I'm not saying that it's necessarily wrong. But the only critique that I do have is, make sure you're not tearing down your own neighborhoods and your own businesses. Um, if you're going to do
Yeah.
that, go over to the rich white part of town. Go loot over there. Go riot over there. Knock that
Go to
stuff
the
down.
Gucci
There's
store.
so much more effective. Don't
Go
tear
to the
down
Gucci store.
your own stuff that our people have been working for. Make sure
Yeah.
you're tearing down the people who are oppressing you.
Yeah.
So you want to make sure you're targeting those folks if you are going to do it. Make sure you're out there, um, you know, tearing down the right institutions, and not your
Yeah.
brother's institution down the street. So that's the only thing that I'll say, when it comes to addressing the protesters there. Also, want to make sure y'all are staying safe out there if you are going to go protest. I know we've got protests out here: DC, Baltimore, Richmond,
Mm-hmm.
um, you know New York, Philly, all over the place, Florida, California, Detroit,
Yeah.
Kansas City. Make sure, if y'all are going outside to participate in these protests, that you're being safe, not only just the day of the protest, but make sure, moving forward, that you and your family are all being safe, because unfortunately there have been people that have been targets because of those protests in the past. I want to make sure y'all don't end up in the same boat. So just make sure you're
Yeah.
protecting yourselves and your family if you're going to go do that.
Definitely. Um, I was going to also say, to add to that, with the people, like you said, if you're going to tear up stuff, don't tear up your own neighborhood. And also, I don't know if you saw the video of Shekinah Joe, who used to have the show with Tiny, or she was on Tiny and T.I. show, her best friend that does, she's a hairstylist. She made a live where she was crying. She was talking about how they tore up, I guess, Lenox Mall and some other stores or something like that. And she was saying that it's not fair to tear down the businesses that are not necessarily involved in this. And she was saying that, these people built their stores, they're not doing anything. It's not fair to tear that down, which I understand that. She went on to say, this is where I have a little discrepancy. She went on to say, y'all tore up Gucci. Gucci ain't do nothing, y'all. I know they were racist. I'm like, wait, you crying about the Gucci store?
Right.
Do you honestly think Gucci cares about anything that's going on with us, about us being murdered, or about us being beat? No,
not at all. They're willing to accept the black dollar and pander to the black community, but the thing a lot of people got to understand is a lot of these wealthy institutions that are being burned down, like people obviously threw a large fuss over Target out there. Most of these buildings and that land are insured, right? And the CEO of Target, right, and the CEO of Target even came out and was saying that they were behind the Black Lives Matter movement. It's another building, it's another store, right? So they can always rebuild another store. Then Target is not hurting for money.
Not at all.
Gucci is not hurting for money.
Not at all.
But your brother down the street, I don't know, Joe's Boutique or something like that. Something like that. Whatever the store may be, whatever the black owned business, or whether it's a restaurant or store, some type of business, they might not get the same type of benefit. They had to struggle to get the small business loan in the first place, probably have higher interest rates because a lot of times banks aren't willing to give black people those type of businesses. So that's a little bit more difficult for them to replace. So make sure y'all keeping that in mind.
Definitely. And another thing I wanted to say too, is that, like you said, it's not so much of a riot as it is a rebellion. People are tired. People are angry. Our people, we're tired. I'm angry. I'm upset. Yeah. I think the part of it that people have to realize is that we've tried to be peaceful. We tried to do kneeling. We tried to do, Black Lives Matter is not, going out here shooting people in the head. They tried to protest. It's like, y'all tell us, oh, peaceful protest. We tried to, people are doing that right now. And for what I've seen and noticed, even when the things was going on in Manassas yesterday, I saw videos of people just holding signs, they're not doing anything. When the police came is when it escalated. So it's just like, when the police are coming and they're shooting rubber bullets at people, and this is not just, in Virginia, this is all over the country. I saw a video in New York where that cruiser ran through a crowd of people.
Yep. SUV ran through. I just want to make clear, hey, listen, as somebody whose family is from New York, as somebody who was born in New York, at least for me, we stand with New York City. We don't stand with the NYPD. We're with the people of New York. And I wanted to say that because, I've always said, listen, New York City is undefeated. And what I mean by that is the people of New York City are undefeated. They're going to get through this just like they, getting through the COVID crisis, just like they got through 9/11, just like any other situation. The people of New York are strong. And so, the NYPD has had a lot of problems for a whole long time. We could address that on a whole different segment. But, just want to make sure that we're clear that we're not standing with the NYPD for what they're doing out there.
No.
And even it's not even just them. Like you said, it's across the country. People are getting rubber bullets. They're getting pepper sprayed and maced. They're getting, hosed down. Like, so, and my whole thing is, you can't. You even have the NFL now making statements about, standing with, the people and all that stuff. But this is the same institution that, basically tried to tear Colin Kaepernick down and all the other players that were doing, that type of protest. So people, listen, non-black people, whatever race or country you might be from, um, you can't get mad at people like Colin Kaepernick and then get also mad at the rioters. You gotta pick a side, or don't even get mad at all because it's really
Right.
not your battle. Um, you you know, people nowadays, they love to quote Martin Luther King all the time, talking about we need to do this peacefully, we need to do that peacefully, stand for things like that. People seem to forget somehow that people were pissed at Martin Luther King back then too. Martin Luther
Yeah.
King was getting the dogs seized on him and the hoses sprayed on him.
Hmm.
People that were
And
doing the sit-ins, the NAACP, Rosa Parks, people were doing things peacefully back then and still getting beat. So
right.
you know,
And spit,
if you
beat and spit on and call nigger and call,
right,
it's not like they patted them on the back. It was like they got the same response or worse than what we're getting right now.
right, you can't blame people. You can't say do things peacefully when people have tried over and over and over again to try to do things peacefully. Um, who's uh, the congressman that was down? John Lewis. John Lewis has been a part of the fight since the civil rights movement. He was doing sit-ins then. He's been arrested. He's been beaten and different things like that. There's lots of peaceful protest examples we can throw out. But then you on the flip side, you can't get mad if you try and try and try and it's not working, and then maybe somebody tries to take a different approach, which might be you know against your particular liking. It might be nonviolent, but hey, if that's the only result that they see that they can get done, who are
Hmm.
you to say otherwise?
Yeah.
um and it's funny, I was talking about, first of all, well, a couple of things. Number one, I would like to say I want to give a shout out to all the women out there, particularly black women who are really riding behind this cause. Black men out there, I really want y'all to pay attention to all these black women out here that are really riding for y'all. I love a lot of times it seems like there's a lot of girls out here that's niggas ain't this, niggas ain't that, blah blah. Not every woman is like that. There's a lot of women out here that
Yeah.
really care about us and our well-beings, and I want to make sure y'all are recognizing these women, making sure they're not going unthanked, and making sure we're causing the same type of ruckus when it's a black woman that's getting killed and not just the black man as well. We certainly appreciate all the love and we want to make sure that we're returning it back to them. So that's the first and foremost thing I want to say. Um, the next thing I want to say is if you are a non-black person and you have black friends or are dating a non-black partner, make sure you're speaking up for our issues too. It's not just I have a black friend so I can say the N word, or I have a black friends, or I have a black boyfriend, I have a black girlfriend so I can do this, whatever. If you have somebody of color in your life on
Hmm.
any level, family member, friend, um, partner, whatever, you need to be speaking out as well. Make sure you're correcting your other ignorant non-black friends, non-black family when they say something that's out of line too. You
Yeah.
guys, we appreciate the ones that are already out there. There's a lot of them that I've seen out there doing the protest too, and that's
Yeah.
amazing. I love to see that. There's a lot of people I've seen speaking out on social media, so we certainly thank y'all. Want to make sure we see y'all and respect y'all too. So that's another thing. And then also when it comes to the looting, a lot of non-black people are quick to call out looting and talk bad about the people who are looting. I was just talking about this on social media a little bit earlier today, and this is what I call the Travis's quick three-step guide to European history. We're about to get a little deep for a second.
Break it
Um,
down.
you you want to know how Europeans were so successful in taking over the world? I can break. We can. I mean, you can have days long lectures on this topic, but really it comes down to three simple steps. And I'm gonna break it down to you in like 4 minutes. Okay. Number one, the Chinese people invented a substance called, now known today as gunpowder, for recreational purposes. They created it for fireworks and different things like that, right? Um, when the Europeans were exploring, the rest of the world, by boat, of course, they came across this substance over there, realized this is something that could be weaponized, took that idea, that invention, back to Europe, and decided to create weapons that were stronger than anything else other continents were using. At a time when everybody's using spears and arrows and all types of different weapons, knives and different things like that, swords. They came along with these explosive weapons that were obviously a lot stronger.
Mm-hmm.
So they were easily able to, take over continents like Africa, like Asia, like North America and South America. Number two, they were allowed to gain, land, generational wealth, all types of resources, different things like that, off of free labor through the transatlantic slave trade, right? So you're taking people from one place, relocating them to another, without their consent, obviously,
Mm-hmm.
and building, empires in different continents, North America, South America, Africa, off of this free labor. So you're reaping solely the benefit from this free labor, but not, having the same expenses. You don't have to pay for that labor. So it's a lot easier to build wealth for generations, and why we still are behind in that race today, because they had such a head start for 300-400 years.
Right.
And then number three, they built the patent office, and then they created all these intellectual property laws and copyright laws and different things like that. Literally stole ideas and inventions from the Asians, the Middle Easterns, the Native Americans, Africans, African Americans, all groups of people. And then going to the patent office and saying, "Hey, I invented this," and of course, the patent office can't prove otherwise. So now you have the protection of the patent to start making profit off of other people's ideas, while having the legal protection to prevent people from profiting off of their own ideas. Um, so in each case, you have, step one, which is literally looting somebody's positive ideas and turning them negative.
Mm-hmm.
Then step two, you have looting people, literally looting human beings from one continent or multiple continents, multiple countries, and relocating them somewhere else. And then obviously three, looting inventions and ideas to help build that wealth, and preventing other people from capitalizing on their own benefits. So before you talk about somebody going into Target or some department store and looting, a stereo or a TV,
Mm-hmm.
make sure you're recognizing the plank in your own ancestors' eyes before you point out the splinter in somebody else's eyes. You know what I'm saying? So that's
Yeah.
um that's the quick 3-step guide to European history.
That
So
was excellent. Preacher or reverend.
oh, so
Preach to the
make sure you're
people.
you're you're recognizing and checking your own history and checking your own. And they might not have told you that in school, but that's all real. You can look it up,
Yep.
and that's make sure you're checking that privilege before you decide to speak out on how wrong other people looting is.
Yeah.
Again, we're not necessarily saying that the correct response is to do the looting, but it's certainly not your place to say how other people can react to being mistreated. So
Yeah.
that's what I had to say with regards to that.
Yeah. And I was gonna also say too, from how you said that it's not your place to tell someone how to react. I'm in my house, right? I can't tell somebody that's going out risking their life to go protest peacefully, whether they're peaceful or not, right? Because that's, like you said, I can't tell them how to react. I, inside of my home, cannot tell someone out there, "Oh, you shouldn't do this," but I'm not there to do anything. You know what I mean? So to me, that also kind of irritated me with different people I saw, like you said about the Target and the Gucci store or whatever other stores. I'm not talking about black business. I'm talking about specific, like, big retail stores, right?
Right.
I don't feel it's my place to tell people how to react, but I also don't feel like I saw pictures of J. Cole out protesting. I saw photos of Wale. I saw
Nick Cannon.
Nick Cannon. I probably missed some because I wasn't on Instagram as much. But
Hmm.
I saw different celebrities out, showing
Bunch of them,
support.
yeah.
Right, showing support. Where I'm not saying that every celebrity should go out, because you like you said, if you feel like you're protecting your house and your peace, and you feel like it's best for me, I can't handle it to go out there, then stay home. But I appreciate seeing people like that have big influence, that are celebrities, that have millions of followers, going out and showing support, whether it's for an hour, or whether it's for that whole day. That means something. Something else I was gonna say, like you said, to the non-black people, showing us support. there's a lot of culture vultures, a lot of them. And it's convenient to want to be Black and, use our language, use our slang, and, dress a certain way, act a certain way, wear cornrows, X, Y, and Z, right? But when the issues come up and you're quiet, it bothers me. It bothers me a lot, because I don't know if you ever heard Paul Mooney say this, but
Absolutely. I was just about to go there.
He said, and I quote, "Everybody want to be a nigga, but don't nobody want to be a nigga." Which means you want to be cool, you want to rap, you want to have that certain type of swag that Black people have naturally. But then when issues come up, when we're getting killed in the street, when we getting our asses kicked, y'all know where to be found. It's convenient for you, and I don't like that. I don't agree with that at all. So that's another thing that bothers me. You can speak to that. I'll let you take the road from that.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, I was just going to reiterate what you said. There's a lot of celebrities that I'm not going to name names because we've named them in some other videos and we've named them in our own discussion. There's a lot of celebrities out there that, are quick to try to take from the well of Black culture and try to rebrand stuff as their own. And, you can really see who's conveniently silent, right now. You can see, on the sports side, you see, Black, Black, head coaches and Black recruiters and different things like that for colleges, for major sports leagues, different things like that, who, are sitting down in the living rooms and the dining rooms of all these Black families telling us how much we need your daughter, we need your son for the sports team and to do this. And, we respect you guys and stuff like that. You guys need to be out here too. If you deal with Black people on any level, on a day-to-day basis, even if you don't, you should be concerned and you should be speaking up, because there's a lot of ignorance that's going on, and you need to make sure that you're hearing it from us, telling you, you don't go to a non-Black person to figure out what's going on with Black people. Talk to Black people, get educated from Black people, and we can tell you firsthand the different things that's going on, because we can correct the ignorance. And if you aren't going to us, you're going to continue to be ignorant yourself. So, I mean, there's a lot of different things that we can say about these celebrities and different things like that. But, the bottom line is make sure you're aware of who you're supporting too. I mean, I get it. Don't get me wrong. I'm all about separating a person's work from who they are as a person too. When it comes to athletes, musicians, different things like that. But at the same time, if you find yourself conveniently being a part of Black culture, there's positives and negatives to Black culture, and this is one of the negatives. So you got to make sure you're not just here for the sunny days and disappear on the rainy days. You got to be here with us, especially if we're if a large part of your fan base, a large part of your support system comes from us. You got to make sure you're supporting us as well. So
I agree with that. And something else I was gonna say too, as far as I'm not a parent, of course. I have nieces that are young, and I also have a brother who's a teenager. My father, my cousins, my uncles, my great uncles. I think about that. Friends, I think about that every day. Like, what would happen if, and it's not necessarily, and this is the other part of that. I don't know. Sorry, my thoughts are kind of going back and forth. I think about you guys as Black men being out, and let's say you get pulled over, you get stopped, right? You're complying, you're doing everything you're supposed to do. And the cop that's stopping you, no matter if he's Black or white, because I was going to talk about that too, there are Black cops that are sometimes worse than the white cops are. Not all of them, but some of them, because I won't say all. And let's say you get stopped by an officer, it's a routine traffic stop, and something happens and you get beat, or God forbid, something worse happens. It's just like, that's happening so much. You have to look at it as a whole picture. It's like where some people I've seen say, well, it's not our fight and, it's not affecting them. But if it affects one person that looks like me, it should affect all of us.
Absolutely. I mean,
it shouldn't just be, oh, well, my dad, you know, George Floyd, I'm not sure if he had children, but he had a family. He had
Right.
brothers and sisters. He had a mother and a father. It's like, you don't think those people are hurting? And I can see
Right.
that, and I can be hurt for him and not be related to him. And the all skin folk and kinfolk is real, because there are some Black people that don't feel affected, whether, like you said, they're just trying to protect themselves and not watch certain things. I understand that. But to just be like, oh, it doesn't hurt you, it doesn't bother. I'm like, how does that not bother you? It
Hmm.
bothers me.
Yeah, there's been some celebrities, you know, some Black celebrities that I've also been disappointed in. I won't name no names either, but you know, the response from some Black celebrities over the past week or so, is a little bit troubling, and not all of them might not have meant their responses to be taken a certain way, but you know, you got to be careful about how you word things these days, especially with a sensitive issue like this.
Yeah.
So you know, you just think about like crafting your response beforehand, because like you said, you know, there's a lot of Black people who just might not necessarily get the message. They might have a different upbringing. They might not have, you know, had the same experiences, which is fine. But you know, that doesn't mean you can not sympathize with the rest of your people. You
Yeah.
know, I don't have children myself, you know, but I am a Black man. I have been pulled over by police before. I've had that fear of, you know, okay, what if something happens to me when I get pulled over here? I've been pulled over because I was driving through a white neighborhood and my music was too loud. So, and I was wearing a do-rag at the time, so that didn't help. But, you
Yeah.
know, you never know what could get you pulled over and what could happen after you're pulled over. So it is a real legitimate fear. Um, and you know, like you said, sometimes it's even the Black police. You know, I don't want to, you know, like sugarcoat or you know, sweep under the rug, you know, Black on Black crime, because that is a serious crime itself, and we've talked about that, and I talk about that many times on social media. But I hate the fact that Black on Black crime has such a stigma behind it, because there's no such thing as Black on Black crime, because it's just crime. Most crimes happen to people who you know or people you're close to. So
Thank
most
you.
most most you know, crimes by Black people are going to be happen from other Black people, just the same way as the same statistics happen with white people, with other
Right.
white people crimes, with Asians versus Asians and Latinos
Yes.
versus Latinos. You know what I mean? Crime is crime, and we have a
Yeah.
lot of internal things, you know, as a people, as a community, as Black people, that we need to fix in ourselves. Don't get me wrong. Yes, you know, we need to stop killing ourselves. You know, yes, Black cops need to be better about how they're treating Black people. Absolutely, 100%,
Mhm.
and nobody is denying that. But what we're not going to sit here and allow is you to throw that out as a distraction every time we talk about police brutality. We're allowed to talk
Right.
about multiple issues at one time. So,
Yeah.
you know, I don't want people to, you know, use that as a scapegoat or as an excuse to justifying why, you know, police treating us a certain way is okay. It's not.
Right.
That's not, like, that's a whole different discussion, and you don't need to be bringing that out, because, like I said, that's an internal issue. We
Yeah.
have things that we need to fix internally as a community, but that doesn't give you an excuse for you to shush us when we're talking about external issues. We got enough internal things to fix without having to try to worry about your external, um, you know, prejudices and actions towards our community as well.
Yeah.
All that does is just add to the pile. So when we're talking about you guys, you being non-Black people, we're talking about ways that you can treat us better to alleviate the load of issues that we're facing. We got enough things that we need to handle on our own without you piling on to that. So don't, you know, I'm not the one, and we're not the ones that you want to come and argue with when it comes to, but what about Black and White crime? We're not here for that. We're not going to stand for
Right.
that argument, because we're
Mm-mm.
tired of hearing that response. It has nothing to
Yeah.
do with the issue at hand. So,
No.
you know, make sure you check yourself before you try to throw that out.
Yeah. And like you said, that is an internal issue that we're working on. But the perfect thing that you said is that the crime that happens would happen in your community, the people you're around. So if you're a Black person and you live in a predominantly Black community and a crime happens, it would be a crime against a Black, because that's who you're close to. Just like in China, if there's crime and it's a predominantly Chinese neighborhood, guess what? It's going to be a Chinese person hurting a Chinese person. So stop saying that as if it doesn't happen to other races and we're the only people that have issues with our own people. You know what I mean? Or that have discrepancies. I loathe that. I hate it. And like you said, it's like a shushing mechanism. Like, well, you know, you guys hurt each other, so maybe you should just, like, no, those are two separate issues, and they should not be grouped all into one.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, you can try to blur the lines all you want, but at the end of the day, they're still separate issues.
Yeah.
Um, so that I mean, that's just that on that. So, you know, I mean, but we really just wanted to do this episode to make sure that we're discussing things that, like, if you don't know at this point, there are things that you need to know, and the correct ways to respond to Black people when we're, you know, grieving, we're crying out. It's not we're playing the race card or we're looking for attention or anything like that. We're like, the issue is the real reality.
Yeah.
That we're not like making these things up. This is really what's going on.
Hmm.
This isn't the media, trying to make people bias or sway them a certain way. This isn't, you know, Black people complaining about, or using excuses to, why, they are where they are. That's not the case here. We're telling you, like, actually what's going on in this country, and you need to listen up, because there's a correct way that you need to be responding to us, and an incorrect way that you don't need to be responding to us. And
Yeah.
I think, you know, our generation, the generation ahead of us, and the generation behind us. I think it's all three groups of people there, like all different age groups that are doing these things, but particularly, the younger generations that are letting folks know, like, hey, we're not standing for this anymore. Like, you want to treat us a
Yeah.
certain way, there's going to be certain, consequences to actions. Everything has a cause and effect. Uh,
Right.
so this isn't, we've tried peaceful, and not to say that there won't still continue to be peaceful process. Obviously there will.
Yeah.
And I certainly would encourage everybody to try to do peaceful solutions as much as possible. um, I'm certainly not going to, condone violence on this show or even encourage it, but I will say folks need to know, like, we're not here to be messed with. Like, we're serious. We mean business here. So
Yeah. Something else I wanted to say, and I don't know if you wanted to close out from here, is that I saw a comment on one of the protester videos that said the worst thing we did as Black people was allow Zimmerman to go free and nothing happened to him. And I thought about that, and I was like, I agree. Not to say that I'm saying that we should have taken his life, but on the other side of that, it's just like, he was arrested, he went to trial, he's walking around free and clear right now, and Trayvon is dead.
some examples should have been made out of George Zimmerman. Yeah.
Something should
Now,
have happened
again,
to him.
we're not saying that y'all should have killed him. That's not what we're saying. But he
No.
should have life in jail. He should be
Yeah.
behind bars right now. He should not be allowed to walk around free. He did do
No.
a crime. He is a a, a, a piece of trash, to censor it. And he's not he's not a good human being. He needs to be behind bars. He should not be walking free like everything's fine and dandy. Um, but God will obviously have that ultimate judgment. But
Yeah.
listen, what he did was absolutely wrong, and there's no way to defend it. Just like what the cop did to George Floyd, it cannot be justified. It is murder. Both situations, just as all of these, just as Sandra Bland, just as Philando Castile, just as Oscar Grant. We can go down the list. Mike Brown, Freddie Gray. We can keep going. I mean, we have
Yeah.
pages and pages of these examples. Ahmaud Arbery. If these people still deserve to be walking around. There are people that are missing, um, you know, husbands, wives, sons, daughters, aunts, uncles, cousins, friends. Right
Hmm.
now, that should have them still with them, for
Yeah.
senseless reasons that don't have any real justification behind them at all. So that's
Yeah.
that's the reason why we kneel. That's the reason why we protest. That's the reason why we sit in,
Hmm.
why we speak out, why we make episodes like this. This is our version of a protest here.
Yeah.
um, and however you feel the need to protest, just make sure you're doing it for the right reasons, and make sure that you're being safe out there as well.
Yes. Um, and as well, on top of that, like you said, we have to kind of make it so that they understand that we mean business and we're not playing. So all the things that are going on right now are a result of that. So it's like, people are hurting, people are upset. They're reacting this way because we've gone decades with this stuff still happening and nothing is, we're not getting a result. So it's like, you're going to get whatever we give you at this point. It is what it is. So I definitely agree that this is a part of our protest. This is a part of us, speaking out about it. We're lucky to have a platform to talk about it and be able to say something. But I just pray for anybody that's out protesting, whether it's peaceful or not. I pray for both. You know what I mean? Because I feel like I want people to come out safely, but this stuff has to stop. And if it takes for us to burn the Target down, for y'all to go, man, we can't kill another Black person because they're going to tear the city up, then so be it. That's how I feel. Because y'all are, to me, our lives are worth more than that store, than those TVs, than the Gucci merchandise. You know what I mean? I don't care about it. That stuff can be replaced. These men and women and children, Black children's lives cannot be replaced. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And you know what? I think this is a good place to close here, obviously from the Good and Terrible Show. But I'm going to leave you all with just, this quick question, just something to think about, before you start to criticize the people that are protesting right now, before you start to criticize people that are speaking out on social media that have stuff to say about, police and police brutality, before you criticize the Black Lives Matter movement, just think about this. What have you personally done to try to fix the issue? And if you can, mold that around your head and you come up with no answers, then you really don't have a place to say anything at all. That's it. Before you start to criticize, make sure you've actually done something to help out the issue at hand about how we are treated in this country. If you haven't done a thing, then you can't say a thing. So just think about that this week, while you're going about your everyday life.
Nice.
With that said, from the Good and Terrible Show, my name is Travis.
My name's Nikki.
And you guys have a great, good, and terrible rest of your day.